Welcome to the Be Greater Faster studios this morning. I'm Ralph Watson with the Family Business Coaching, and I'm proud to have in studio Lance Ball. And I've got to give a quick shout out to Brian Sylvester with Professional Pro Plumbing Business Accelerator, because he's the one that introduced or interviewed Lance. And I saw the interview, and I'm going, this guy is great. I gotta get him on and talk to him a little more in detail. So Lance, again, I thank you for dialing in from, what is it, Rock
Springs, Wyoming.
Wyoming, yes. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Ralph. I appreciate it. You're too kind with your words.
Well, not really. I mean, I was telling Lance before we went on, I noticed he's gotten to be quite famous. I was looking at one of his videos and on YouTube, and another one popped up over there. So he's quite in demand, and he's in demand because of what he has accomplished. And so Lance, if you would just sort of tell us about, I know you worked for some other plumbing outfits for a good long while. But when did you decide you were going to go in business for yourself?
So this is actually my second business. I started a business down in Las Vegas in 2003, I believe it was. And it lasted about 2 or 3 years. And then I went through a nasty divorce and life changes, and that's just the way it goes. Sometimes you get a monkey wrench in your ideas and your plans, and you have to readjust. And that was actually good in a lot of ways, Ralph, because what it did is it brought me back to my home state of Wyoming with a trade in hand to a place that really needed a good plumbing company to take care of the homeowners. And so it was a blessing in disguise. I didn't know it at the time. We're going through our trials, but they end up being blessings in the long run. And I've been in the plumbing business since 2000. 2003, I got my master's license, or my journeyman's license. And then in 2005, I got my master's license. And so it was right around that time that I started Snake a Drain. And I did it just doing drain work because I didn't have to have my master's license.
Okay.
And then once I got my master's license, I went full-fledged into not doing just drains, but plumbing as well. And then obviously things took a turn for the worst, and I left Las Vegas and came up here to Rock Springs. I'm originally from Cameron, which is about 70 miles west of here. But it wasn't a big enough town to start a company in. There was only 3,000 people in that town, and there just wasn't enough demand to do something there. And I really didn't have any money at that point. So I needed to start scratch. And so I hired on with a company here in town. The company had been around the longest, Vaughn's Plumbing and Heating. And I was with them for about 2.5 years. And then they had a downturn. It was when 2008 took place.
Right.
We had a downturn in the economy, and they had to lay a bunch of us off. And obviously a master plumber is making more money than the new guys. So I had to be laid off. Within a day, I had another job at another plumbing company. At that point, I was hired on as the lead plumber for new construction. And I really quickly grew up to being the general manager at that company. That was 18 Plumbing. And I worked for them for about 2 years. And then I just got tired of running the business and not getting anything really from it. I was losing time with my family. Just things weren't working the way I wanted to. I couldn't make the changes in the company that really needed to be made. It wasn't my company, so I didn't have that right. And as general manager, you can only do so much. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You can run things, you can help with things, but you can't really do any of the major changes that needs to take place sometimes in revamps.
Right.
I decided to take a break from plumbing for about 2 years. That's when I realized that my passion is plumbing.
Okay.
I went into maintenance for an apartment complex as their head maintenance supervisor. I didn't like that. I missed the trade.
Yeah.
It was something that I'm passionate about my trade. I love it,
Good.
everything about it. And I think that's really important. You have to have a love for what you want to do.
Yeah.
And and it shows, people can see when you have passion for your trade, and they can see when you don't.
Yes, sir.
And that attracts people. So I decided at that point, I'm tired of this, tired of working for other people. Nobody can do plumbing like I can here. Nobody can give people options.
Yeah.
It's all broke fix mentality, as I call it, Ralph. And basically what that was is they just came out and here's your problem and we're going to fix it. Instead of saying, here's your problem, but here's your options that we can do to resolve that issue, and giving the homeowner some control back, right? It's not very fair to the homeowner to not have that control.
Yeah.
And so that was a big deal with me.
Well, last time
to give that back.
Yeah. Let us into your head for just a minute. What was going on inside the cranium there when you were facing being out of work and now you're getting ready to start a business?
I think what happened there was my mind was, I can do better. I can do better. Mm-hmm. And obviously I'm a dreamer. You have to be to go into business. I'm also a little bit of a risk taker. You also have to be that to go into business, right? Because you're taking a heck of a risk. And I had remarried since then. Mm-hmm. And I told my wife I want to do business, and she thought I was crazy. She's like, no, we need a paycheck. We don't need loss. We need a paycheck. And I said, look, I know I can do this. I know I can. There's just nobody can do it like I can. And luckily she took some faith in me and she's actually been involved in it since day one. Yeah. She's actually helped with the books on it since day one. And so it's been a team effort. Good. But we just jumped into it. But my mind was, I've got to do it. Yeah. There's just no question about it. I got to do it.
Well, once you grabbed the brass ring, kind of how did the realities turn out?
It's like a rodeo, you're sitting in the chute, you're just fine, right? That animal's not moving. Once they open that chute, you're on a whole different ball game. Yeah, and it took me tossed and turned. I started out doing service work on the weekends. Yeah. And then I fell into that new construction pit, and that's literally what it is it's a pit. Yeah. And
you decided you decided not to be the banker for the general contractor.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what that's exactly what you are. You're a banker. You're fronting all the money. You're fronting all the labor. You're fronting all the parts, and you don't get paid until the project's done. Yeah.
So how long did that phase last?
It was about 4 or 5 years, Ralph. It was quite a while, and I just got tired of being up at 3 o'clock in the morning and coming home at 7 o'clock at night and not seeing anything from it. Yeah.
What did you do to change that?
Well, it's interesting. I said, something's got to change, and I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. Kind of hit this plateau, and it's just killing me is all it's doing. Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
Sure.
And I was praying really hard. I'm a religious man. Good. Praying really hard. What do I need to do here? What do I need to change? And my church, believe it or not, was offering a class called Starting and Growing a Small Business.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? Maybe this is God's sign that I need to jump into this class and take this class, and maybe I'll learn something, learn what I need doing wrong. And so that's where I started. And it was an 8-week class. And I don't remember exactly when during that class, but at one point there was a point that said, if you don't really know what you're doing in the business that you're in, maybe you need to find somebody that's done it and talk to them. And I was like, it was like a light bulb went off. And I'm like, I've never talked to another plumbing business owner about how to run a plumbing business. I've never done it.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden those search engine gears kicked on, and I start working really hard, and I was searching the internet like crazy. Google, just every day, every spare minute I had, even if it was a lunch break or whatever it was, I was looking for plumbing business coaches.
Good.
And I got lucky, and I found one in particular who we just meshed,
Well,
Everything I've read about him, I felt good about him. His name is Richard Bainey, the $1 Million.
Well, we call that being blessed. It wasn't.
That's exactly what it was,
you know,
and it was. It was at a time that I really needed it.
Yeah, you know, I did a little bivocational youth and music work for small churches, and I tell clients all the time, other than the preacher in a small church, I cannot think of a more lonely profession than business owner, because there's nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, and
you're absolutely right.
If you try to tell your friends all your troubles, they're going, "Oh man, come on, please." And sometimes I'll ask my clients, "You know what your friends think of you?" And I mean, I just met them, and they're going like, "Who do you think you are?" And I said, "They think you've got it made. You know, you come go as you please. You hire people to do stuff you don't want to do. You write it all off on the taxes, dude. You have the life of Riley." And they said, "You know what? You're exactly right." You know, so it's a lonely world out there as
I mean, owner. It is. It truly is, and not even your family understands it.
No.
The people that are closest to you, you would think that they would understand it, and they don't. No. They don't. They don't know anything that's going on. They don't know the small things like marketing or any of that stuff, branding. They don't understand any of that.
Yeah.
And so to find somebody that understands business and business coaching, and then to add on top of it new plumbing,
right?
That was a huge game changer for me. Huge game changer for me. And he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He taught me how to do business.
Good.
He coached me through it, you know. He didn't do it for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's coaching, you know.
That's coaching.
Consultants come in and they fix it for you. Coaches have to stand on the sidelines. You know, you don't ever see on Sunday afternoon head coach out in the middle of the football field. They're over there coaching and working with you during the week.
Yep.
So, but you know, one of the things I remember from your interview with Brian was you talked about he talked to you about your numbers, and there's a TV show called The Profit, if you've watched it, and he says if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. So talk to us.
Absolutely truth.
Talk to us about how you learned your numbers.
So that was the very first thing he did is he said, "All right, we're gonna get right to the very pennies," and I was like, I know my pennies. He's like, no, you don't. If you knew your pennies, you'd be where you need to be.
Yeah.
And so we sat down and we went through everything, Ralph, my insurances, my overhead, my rent, the cost of my vehicle, gas, everything. We went to the very penny and we figured out exactly what it was I was spending in an hour. And it shocked me. I'll be honest. I was like, what? That's what I'm spending in an hour? And he calculated it based on work time, you know? And then he's like, this is where we start. This is how we know what your bottom line is. You have to make at least that to break even. And it was again, light bulbs, you know,
right.
This is a whole different thing that I didn't even thought of, you know? And like I said, with Brian, I'm a good master plumber. Okay. I can do my trade well.
No doubt.
I know the ins and outs of plumbing. I did not know the ins and outs of business. And that's really where he got me, is he taught me the numbers. He taught me how to look at things. And then he taught me how to build on that and how to price based off of that. Oh. And people ask me all the time, I get calls all the time, Ralph. Hey, how do you know what to charge? It doesn't matter what I charge. What is your bottom line?
Right.
And I think so many times, and this is, I think, probably across the board with plumbing business owners and probably trade business owners in general.
Absolutely.
Is they look at the competition and they base it on their pricing.
Right.
And they should never do that.
No.
Because the competition might have overhead way up here or way down here, and you can't judge on that.
Well, you mentioned the term break even, and a lot of people, you know, they kind of have a vague, not really understanding what it is, but there's a book about an inch and a half thick. I got it laying right here, propping up my monitor. So it comes in handy for a lot of things. Great book. Called the Vest Pocket MBA, and chapter 4 is on break even. And the first sentence of chapter 4 is break even analysis lies at the heart of your company's success. And I talk to business owners, they don't have a clue. But you know, it's a point at which you covered your fixed cost, and you enter an area of super profitability, If you've got your
Correct.
fixed costs covered, now you're working in an area where it's just your variable and overhead. And they can, people know what they're doing, can cut their prices, get a job, and still make money on it.
Correct.
But it's
As long as you know what the bottom line is, and you got to know that bottom line, and that takes the work, right? We were talking earlier before this about me building a price book for my company, and I literally took 3 days, locked myself in a trailer house, a camper, and I literally worked on my price book. And what was I doing? I was figuring out what my bottom line was. And then I was figuring out what my profit was based on top of that bottom line.
Yeah.
Right. And every successful business is at least 30% or more in profit, at least.
Yeah.
And if you're at 10%, you're making profit, but you're not making enough profit.
No.
30% needs to be, that's about bottom line. That's where you want to really be. And so trying to figure all that out, you got to do it. But, and I would take one more step further is you got to build for where you want to be.
Right.
Right. Especially when you're smaller. You might not have 10 trucks. You might not have, the money rolling in like you want. You got to prepare for those 10 trucks.
There you go.
Right. So you got to say, okay, I want to be able to grow this much money on top of my profit in order to grow my business at a quicker rate.
Yeah.
And it's called development, right? We know it as development. But that's literally what you have to do. And you have to figure that into your math as well. Yeah. Because at the bottom line, customers paying for everything.
Yeah. And, you're talking about your price book.
Yes.
And a lot of most business owners don't understand that cost of goods sold section at the top.
Yeah.
And the gross margin. But the gross margin is the money you make buying in the cost of good and selling on the top line. It's the buying and selling. And that should accurately reflect your pricing model. And so when you look at that gross margin line, if you're shooting for 60% on each job, when you add it all up at the end of the day, if it's not pretty close to that gross margin line, something's off. Productivity, material costs, direct labor, something's not being factored in.
And we call that KPIs. Key
performance indicators. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how you know whether your guys are being successful in the field or not, is you can measure it based on that. Right.
Well, and most business owners are trying to run it off their accounting reports, P&L, balance sheet, but you got to have a budget, and people hate to hear that 4-letter word called budget.
Yeah.
But if you got, if you're comparing this year against last year, who said last year was any good? Yeah. But if you've got a budget that you can compare, now you've got an exception report, and it creates I tell my clients a column of red, yellow, and green lights over here.
Yeah.
And it automatically takes you to where your business begins to speak. Well, your business is always speaking to you. The question is, do you as a business owner have the ear to hear what it's saying?
Yeah.
And an exception report is a great management tool. It's not an accounting document. And the other one you hit on is the KPIs, or we call them a dashboard or flash report or whatever.
Correct.
And if you get those key performance indicators down, and you said this earlier, you and your wife are going on a motorcycle trip, and you'll know as much when you get to Arkansas as you would if you were sitting behind your desk. And business owners cannot grasp that until they get it. Once they get it, they get it. But it's just, and then your employees left behind have something to gauge themselves by.
Yeah, I mean, and you can actually train that. Believe it or not, you can get. I have a field manager, and I basically set him down and I said, okay, this is what you're watching for.
Right.
And I'm using the same system across the board. All my calls and my booked calls and everything goes into the same system. All my dispatching, all my invoicing, everything's in the same spot, one spot, right?
Oh yeah.
And I talked about this with Brian. Is you got to really keep it simple.
Sure.
Especially if you've not been trained in business, right? You really need to dumb it down for yourself. Don't overdo it. And it's so easy in business to get sidetracked, like you were talking about, focusing on your exemptions or focusing on your profit and loss.
Right.
It's so easy to get sidetracked. but you really need to focus on those key indicators, because if you focus on those key indicators, your business is going to continue to profit and grow.
But if that exception report is showing a big red light over in the, your field manager, while you're in Arkansas, is going to see that. And he's going, we got to figure this out, because Lance is going to be calling pretty quick.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And if you got the system that makes it easy for him to do it, then he can do it. You know,
I'm glad you use that word system, because that was the one word you kept using over and over in your interview with Brian. And it's the key, you know, but if you try to talk to a business owner about systems, they don't really they don't understand, first of all, but then they want the results of the system.
Yes.
You know, it's as I was telling you, the old joke about, do you have a 1/4-inch drill? Oh yeah, I got a 1/4-inch drill. Did you want it when you bought it? Well, yeah, I wouldn't have bought it. So did you want the drill, or did you want the 1/4-inch hole? You know, the only way to get the 1/4-inch hole is to get the system, the drill to create that. And you know, there are financial systems. There's, and I love your system with your employees on performance pay. You know, one of the big deals is performance-based job descriptions, where they know what their personal KPIs are. When you add it all up, comes up with the KPI for the company. So you put them in business.
And it creates a culture, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you can take that system, and every employee wants to be part of a culture.
Right.
Every employee. I wanted to be a part of a culture. I didn't even know it until I was doing business, you know, but I wanted to be a part of a culture.
Yeah.
I wanted to have that ingrained to where there was a set way of doing things, right? And by doing that set way, it promotes success.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. And I didn't know it until I got into business. I started, you know, really learning things. I started seeing things that I wanted. And I was like, you know, this would have been great if I would have had this in the field. If I had a system where my performance based my pay, I would have been killing it.
Yeah.
I would have probably never left that job.
You essentially want to put them in business for themselves, working for you. And you mentioned you mentioned culture, and this is one of those things that when you start trying to talk to a business owner it's not advanced like you, they think it's very esoteric. You know, it's very academic. It doesn't have practical value. But you know, your purpose, your vision, your mission, and core values, and the core values in a business are going to reflect the core values of the business owner. So your culture that those other people are experiencing are based on the non-negotiables in your life, those hills upon which you're willing to die, you know, that are just, and you don't have, like, you may have 3 or 4 core values. You're not going to have 20 or 30.
we have 4 core values. That's it. And it's all based on, the very first one is show up ready to save the day.
Good.
That's our number 1 core value. Okay. And the reason excuse me, the reason I put that as number 1 is I want their focus to be on the customer.
Right.
Right. Because if they're focusing on the customer, then they're going to be focusing. That'll help them, by the way, with their paycheck.
Right.
Because if they're focusing on the customer, they're going to be wanting to make a sale to that customer. Right. They're going to be wanting to move that customer in the right direction. So that's number 1. Show up ready to save the day.
I love it.
Number 2 is finish what you start.
Good.
Right. And so many times this can go into a lot of ways, right? It can be follow-ups. It can be, hey, you know what? I had to order parts for this job. I'm just going to follow up and make sure that those parts are there because I'm finishing what I started. Right. But it also puts a mentality in there of creating good work.
Yes.
Because if you're going to finish what you're starting, you don't want to have to go back on that.
No redos,
right? And that's where that piece pay, the piece rate that I was talking about, the way I pay, it comes back at callbacks are 0 hours.
Yep.
Because it's not the customer's fault that you have to go back. That's your fault.
Exactly.
Right. And so you shouldn't get paid for it because you didn't do it right the first time. And that goes back to finishing what you start.
Right.
Right. Because if you would have finished it right, we wouldn't be going back. So, and that also creates a sense of teamwork too. Yeah. Right. Nobody wants to come and pick up for the other guy.
Right.
So if you're doing your end, your teammate knows that you're doing your end, and you're working together better as a team because you know that you're both focused in the right direction.
Right.
So that's number two. Number three is, give me a second here. I'd think,
Put you on the spot.
yeah. I usually have these memorized when I was training, and I'm not training as much anymore.
Well, when you're talking about systems, and you mentioned McDonald's, and I want to
Yes.
kind of dovetail a couple of things here.
Yes.
You know how many settings there are on the fry machine at McDonald's?
Probably one or two.
Two.
Yeah.
On and off.
Yeah.
There's no monkeying with the temperature.
No.
And if they stick the basket up, it's measured. They dump it in the basket. We push the button, grease it hot enough. It just sits there till it goes down, comes up. All they got to do is dump it out and shake some salt on it. And that's how McDonald's can take a kid that's never had a job in their life and have them cooking world-class French fries in 15 minutes. The other thing about that you mentioned was about McDonald's versus other companies. And this has to do with quality, because everybody thinks quality is some kind of warm, fuzzy feeling, but it's really conformance to standard.
Correct.
If I ask you, is McDonald's hamburger the best hamburger you ever ate? I can just about hear you say, no.
No.
Is it the most consistent hamburger you've ever eaten?
Absolutely.
I mean, I've eaten McDonald's in Europe. Same thing.
Same thing.
So,
yep.
So, if you don't have the standard, you can't judge quality. And you had the old, I like your good, better, best analogy, the old Sears. If they want just a replacement toilet, that's what they're going to get. Okay. That's quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they think they're getting the top model, the best, and they end up with the other, that's not quality.
Would you rather drive a Toyota or a Ferrari?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Everybody would love to have a Ferrari, whether they can afford it or not. It's a story.
Yeah. And, another kind of rule of thumb here, I heard somebody say, if you're going to do something one time, like incorporate your business or set up your chart of accounts, hire a professional to do that. Get a professional lawyer, professional accountant. If it's something that's going on day by day, but it's not impacting your bottom line, outsource it. And you've done a great job with that, with the outsourcing your HR. And I love that. But that gives you time to focus on the real business. And I don't want to drag our interview out or too long and take too much of your time. But one of the things you mentioned was marketing. And marketing is always the tough one, because you can set up your standard operating procedures, you get your accounts running, you do all that other stuff, and kind of one and done. But marketing is always changing. And we do a program called Monopolize Your Marketplace, where you got your inside reality and your outside perception, marketing being your outside perception, inside reality. But it has to do with innovation. And you've done a lot of innovation. The problem with innovation is, as soon as you get something going, somebody else kind of steals it. They say, what is it? Imitation is a serious form of flattery, but in business, it's like the kiss of death. Yeah. But I'm really intrigued by the HR company that you're using that has the Uber style. Your service truck is coming. You can kind of see him on your cell phone, and he's got his picture.
So that would be my Service Titan. That's all part of my CSM, my customer service management software.
Right.
It's not a one and done. I mean, they have a huge format, and you can cherry pick basically what fits your company best, which is exactly what every business needs to do. Because as we were talking earlier, not everybody's bottom line is going to be the same, and not everybody's system is going to be the same. It's going to be based on what you need for your community or for your customer or whatnot. But that Service Titan is a fabulous system for that. It's not cheap. But if you want success in your business, you got to think outside the price dollar sometimes and think about what's going to be best for my customer. And in that relationship, Service Titan was the best for us. Because they gave everything we needed. We needed invoicing. We needed a customer relationship. We needed to be able to record our phone calls. We wanted to be able to track what was going on with our guys. We wanted to be able to get photographs and attach that to the invoicing. We wanted to be able to do estimates and be able to do our 3 options. And
Right.
I'll do that with technology, right?
Exactly.
Get away from the pen and paper trades. Get away from it. It's gone.
Yes.
All right. We're in a new century, a new earth. We need to really think about technology and applying it. And that goes for the customer.
Yeah. But
The customer wants that too.
yeah. And innovation is starts in the operations. What can you
Yes.
do quicker, faster, stronger, better? Because
Yes.
if you're just like everybody else, I got some bad news. You better get ready to cut your prices.
Yep.
If that's all you are, is just like everybody else. But as I said, innovation is a decaying asset. Somewhere in America, the guy that had a nasty little oil change center had an idea. Wonder what happened if I cleaned this place up, put a TV and a playpen and gave women 30% off on Wednesday afternoon. Wonder how that would work. Well, it worked great. Unfortunately, 3 weeks later, the hippy dippy oil change center down the street did the same thing. And, right now you've got and this company has got a great value with that Uber style. As you said earlier, you got to start planning ahead. Sooner or later, everybody's going to have that. It's going to become the norm.
It is. And you need to implement it in your website for booking.
Yes.
You need to make it as easy as you possibly can. We're all about convenience now.
Yep.
And it's getting worse as we go. It's not getting better.
Yeah.
Right. We're getting more, hey, I want it now. I want it now. And so you need to adapt your business to match that.
I ordered some vitamins from Amazon just like yesterday.
Yeah.
At like 3:15, and I had them by 7:00. It's like, how in the hey do they do that? But
yeah,
you're talking about convenience and speed and business at the speed of life. So,
but they did that with system.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
They did it with a system.
They didn't just
they didn't just throw it in the mailbox. They have a system for everything. So
you got that right.
And you got to prep with the system first.
Yeah. Well, look, Lance, just kind of wrapping this up real quick. What if you had a chance to speak to those guys out there who are like the pre-system Lance, when struggling and worrying about how to make payday on Friday and those kinds of things? What words of advice would you give them?
Number one is you can't work on your business if you're working in your business, and you need to get your butt out of the truck. I hate to say it like that, but that was my biggest hang up, and my coach taught me how to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So focus on getting yourself to a point where you can get yourself out of the truck so you can focus on building the business up. Because once you start working on the business, that's when you really have the time to start focusing on the price book. Because everybody goes, well, I don't have time to build a price book. I don't have time to do this. I'm too busy working. There's your problem.
Right.
Right. If you're too busy working, then you don't have time to build your business and you'll never get anywhere.
Yeah. And that's part of the mindset. You got to transfer the mindset from an employee to an owner.
Yes.
And then an owner to a real businessman, not just being a man in business, but being a businessman. And
that's very important. Very important. My coach said to me, Lance, you don't ever go up to somebody and introduce yourself as a plumber ever again.
No.
Yes, you're a master plumber and you'll always have that title, but now you're a CEO.
Right.
And what was he trying to get in my mind was exactly that, the mindset, right? Change your mindset.
There you go. And one of the things I use is what's called the Eisenhower matrix. Stephen Covey made it famous, but it's the differentiation between the urgent and the important.
Correct.
And most business owners live their life in quadrant one, putting out fires. It's urgent and it's important. Planning, date night with your wife, driving down on a motorcycle, that's quadrant two. It's important, but it's not urgent. She's not going to divorce you because you can't take her to Arkansas on a motorcycle. But the only way you get more time is and that's the thing. The more time you spend in quadrant two, the fewer fires you have in quadrant one.
Correct.
So, well, listen.
And is it going to be? I always hear the word balance, life balance. I think that's bull crap.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever a perfect balance. If you create a good system, then you can really make that balance a lot better.
Yeah.
But there's never going to be a perfect balance. You're never going to be able to 100% not focus on work 100% not focus on family. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
always going to be, at one time you have to focus more on family. At the other time you have to focus more on
Yeah.
business, right? So
Well,
there's no balance.
yeah.
Just
Well,
throw that out the window.
exactly. Well, the work balance is you don't want to be 100% in work and zero into family.
Family,
Because
correct.
and I can't tell you how many uh, businesses I've been in. I understand you've got 3 sons that you're looking to create a legacy business.
Yep.
But because they lack the organizational structure and the clarity of being a business, uh, the kids get at one another, and then they marry, and they got their wives talking to them behind the scenes, and it just gets to be I mean, the very thing that they went in business to create is what's destroying the business. So
Correct.
I applaud you on so many levels, and
But if the system's there, it's
exactly
really hard to break that
that's
system,
that's
right?
that is the key word for the day, for the life. Those businesses, systems
Yeah.
everywhere.
Get that system in place. I mean, it's just like the vehicles, right, that we
Right.
drive. It's the system of the motor that gets you from point A to point B.
Right.
It's not the wheels. The wheels can't get them there by themselves. The motor can't get you there by themselves. It has to be the whole system working together. And
Exactly.
it's exactly the same thing in business.
Well, Lance, I appreciate you coming and sharing your life experiences, and I sense we're going to help some struggling plumbers and electricians and HVAC guys to
Sure.
find a clearer path quicker. They may not all be going to a church that has a seminar on how to grow a successful
Gets
small
lucky,
business.
yeah.
but God bless you, sir, and thanks again for taking time with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. Take care now.
Have a good day.
You too.